In October of 2011, Honor Flight of Southern New Mexico escorted its fourth group of World War II veterans to visit the memorial in Washington, D.C. that was built in their honor. If asked, these same veterans will dispute that fact, only to say that this monument was built to honor the over 400,000 Americans that were killed in combat. This film is dedicated to these veterans, the greatest generation, the men and women who so bravely served to preserve the very freedoms that we enjoy today. The World War II Memorial unifies them all, joining the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. This monument is a tribute to the men and women of World War II that has only been open since 2004, just a bit overdue. Over the last 4 years, 160 local veterans have made this trip, thanks to the generosity of our community. This is the account of that latest group, their comments, their insights, their stories.
You know, we had the ROTC out yesterday morning, and it's pretty impressive when they come out. And I know that you received the salute as well as the cross swords when you entered the bus. That's part of the that's part of the program. That's part of the honor that you deserved and earned. The other thing that's very important to me, it's the 405,399 veterans that didn't come home. So that's part of this program, not only those that have passed on, but you who are living, and we appreciate that, and I mean that 100%. What we're gonna do now is I basically turn the microphone open to any veteran that wants to come up.
Most of the people say, well, we never heard anything about the war from our fathers. They never talk about it. And I guess I'm as guilty of that as anybody. I didn't talk about it at home. He didn't talk about it, my father-in-law, and there are many other people. And why we don't do it, I'm not sure. It's probably a psychological thing, but it's true.
I know veterans do not talk to their wives, do not talk to their kids, and the only time they talk about their experience in the war is when they see another yellow jacket or they know somebody personally and they might share. So what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to walk away, and if you would like to come up and share anything whatsoever, you're welcome to do so. We thank you very much.
And I thank God to Harry Truman for having the guts to drop the bomb. Now, to me, the monuments were extremely impressive, and I loved every minute of it. But in my mind, those things that will stick to my mind the most was, number one, that reception we got at the airport when we came to town. That was really a thrill. And I thought about our poor Vietnam veterans and their welcomes that they were getting when they came home. And I'm glad that we have had a change in attitude. Number two, seeing all of the other honor flight members that arrived today and that were around, and knowing that this is a program that's going nationwide and having good participation. And thirdly, that very serendipitous event that we had at the Iwo Jima Memorial, where we happened to arrive just at the moment that group from Amarillo area was going to give their ceremony. I was very pleased that we had the opportunity to do that. And fourth, just as a reminder, on the backside or away from the Iwo monument was a group of portable toilets. And I took a picture of those. And I'm going to go home and label that photo as a monument to what we had to, the bull we had to put up with when we were in the Army. Thank you.
My name is F.W. Yanker, Y-A-N-K-E-R. And I joined the military in January of 1942, and I served thoroughly through to 1974. I wasn't at Pearl Harbor, but I came in shortly after that. I served in the Philippines, and then during the Korean War, I was in the Arctic, so I missed that. But I did get to serve in Vietnam also. And our homecoming then was not nearly as good as this one.
So again, we want to remember the sacrifices each person here has made, say thank you.
Believe me, and I'm really proud to be here with this group of fellows, with fellow officers and men of all the services. And I want to thank everybody that's involved in this program, because I think this is just an excellent way of showing how the military does its job. We don't get credit for a lot of things that go on, but we're going to serve you the best of our ability, and it's just too bad that we couldn't show you all our buddies who are not with us here. And I wish to speak up for them in any way we can, because they're the real heroes of World War II and Korea and Vietnam. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help. I went into private and came out a colonel, so.
Well, yes, happy memories of when the anchor dropped on the Admiral Sims under the Golden Gate Bridge coming home. I wasn't sick anymore. Yep.
I have some very vivid memories. I have a memory of when my navigator, Steve Kramer, from Cleveland was killed. I was a bombardier, and he was right up there, right next to me. In fact, I think I was in his position, and we had just fairly moved around when a piece of flak came up and killed Steve. But that's a vivid memory that I had. On one combat mission, this will tell you how brave an Air Force person I was. You know, the bombardier sits in the front of a B-24, and I had a flak suit on this particular mission, I had taken my flak suit off. I put it down in front of me, but under me there's a steel pellet. I mean, that's a thick of steel. Well, a piece of flak came up, and it hit so close to the aircraft that Mac, who was a pilot, said, "Hey, Sos, are you okay over there?" I said, "Yeah, I think I'm okay, Mac, but I think I got it up the rectum." And he said, "Well, God dang it, man, look." So I got up and I started looking for blood, because this piece of flak came up, went through the steel pellet, hit the flak suit, and boom, it buckled me, you know. And I thought, oh man, I've been.
Can you speak about the age of the World War II veterans versus the age of the monument? How there's such a great year gap?
Yeah, it was one of the great, I think, oversights, and maybe even you could call it a disgrace that it took so long to put this up. My father had been in World War II and never said a word, but when they put this up, he had never said a word my whole life, and they put this up and he said, "It's about time." That's all he said. The sacrifices in World War II were so much greater than any other generation has been called to give on. That it's nice to have this memorial. Shouldn't have taken as long as it did, but now then we look forward into the future, and it will stand as a representation of what all gave during that period of time. It wasn't just the people in combat. People at home were suffering things, because everyone was contributing to the war effort, and that's, again, what made that tremendous struggle such a great success.
I think one thing I noticed is how different women are treated in the military than when I was in. I have a favorite story about my experience. I went to Fort Des Moines for basic training, and while I was the second day we were there, we had an orientation meeting for the whole group, and a colonel came in, and he was supposed to, I guess it was supposed to be a welcome speech, only it wasn't. He said something like, "Now, we don't need you here. We've been doing our work very well without you for many years. So in other words, you're going to have to really watch yourselves if you're going to be accepted." That's all. So we didn't feel very well, but I know it's not like that now. Yeah.
I'd like to talk about not only the bravery of men who went to war, but the women they left behind. My husband was in the invasion of Normandy. And when we saw the news, when we heard the news, it was very traumatic because we wondered if our guy would be left behind. The women and the families of you men who fought so bravely were also very brave on the home front. So I want to pay tribute to the women that were left behind because they were as brave as the men who fought for our country. Thank you.
I'm really pleased to see that people are doing this for veterans, especially World War II veterans.
My name is Joe Blair, and I'm from Portales, New Mexico. I just want to thank the people that was involved in this honor flight and tell them how grateful I am to get to participate in it, and I want to thank them very much.
It's a miracle and it's a blessing that somebody does this for the veterans. It's a blessing to them and to us. James Tyndall. I spent time at the end on Corregidor. I was stationed over at Marikina in the Philippine Islands, that's at Manila, and then they needed a medic out on Corregidor to take care of the troops. Then I do not want to represent myself as being on Corregidor during the terrible times. But Corregidor is one place and one event that nobody should ever forget. I was there at the very, very tail end. But the story of Corregidor should always be remembered. The death march, Bataan Death March, started there. In February, the armament in Corregidor and the surrounding islands was all World War I material, armament. By the Second World War, it was outdated. And the anti-aircraft shells they had were from the First World War. Half of them didn't fire. They were only good for 18,000 feet. The Japanese were flying in at 19 and 20,000 feet and bombing the island mercilessly. Pearl Harbor loaded a submarine with anti-aircraft shells and sent it to Corregidor. It came in the middle of the night to North Dock. They unloaded the anti-aircraft shells that were good for 20,000 and 21,000 feet. Therefore, they were able to shoot down the Japanese planes. The commander of the submarine was ordered to return to Pearl immediately. They unloaded the shells on North Dock in the middle of the night. Then the commander of the submarine realized they were not able to submerge the submarine because all the ballast was taken off of it with the shells. They suggested loading it with sandbags. The sandbags were too precious for the defensive positions on Corregidor. So they woke up the generals in the middle of the night. All the gold, even the sheets of gold sheeting that the dentists used for teeth, was taken out of Manila and put on Corregidor. This happened in February of 1942. So they got the generals out, they unlocked the vaults in Corregidor. They loaded $41 million worth of gold on that submarine so it could submerge and get out of the harbor.
The pilots of the C-47s have gotten little credit for what they did. They were an extraordinary bunch of pilots, and I think we all owe them the greatest thanks. And thank you for listening.
My name is Wally Short. I'm an old pilot, but I want to tell you one of my brief experiences on the B-17 Flying Fortress bomber. I think the greatest plane ever made. They made 12,000 of those bombers, and 4,000 did not survive. I was destined to be a pilot, but I ended up a lower ball gunner on the B-17, had 600 hours in that airplane. And I was in the lower ball on one of our tours, and after about 3 hours of almost going blind, looking straight down, I did spot a life raft. And it was reported. I never found out for sure if they were saved, but we did get the coordinates, and they went after them, and I hope they found them. But coming back on that particular flight, the pilot ordered all the crewmen to go to the rear of the plane to the waist door and put on your parachutes. He said, we have 2 engines out and the other 2 are ready to explode or catch fire. I guess the flight engineer told him that it was very dangerous. And so I got on the radio. I was out of the lower ball then, ready, and I told the pilot, I said, that this guy, Wally Short, is not going to bail out with a little May West out of sight of land in the Gulf of Mexico. And because it's suicide, they'd never find you. I told the pilot, I said, the rest of you can bail out, but I will ditch the airplane because I could fly the B-17. I was a student pilot. And I said, I'll ditch it and I'll pop the big 18-foot raft and you can swim and I'll save you. But I'm not going to bail out. And the pilot thought about it a minute, and he said, well, hold on, man. We'll just fly around here a little bit longer. And before you know it, he said, I don't think we're going to have an explosion. He said, we're going to try to make it in on 2 engines. So I did disobey him, but I disobey my commander. But he did think about it, and he decided to bring the ship in. And I didn't get in any trouble, and I didn't get any commendation, but I feel like I might have saved some lives on that particular mission.
When our troops were ordered back to Corregidor, they were told that there was about 300 to 400 Japanese troops on the island. They were informed that there was no medical facilities to treat wounded prisoners, 40 miles out in the middle of the ocean, no facilities to transport them, no food for them. In other words, they were instructed what to do. There was 5,280 Japanese on that island. At the end of 2 days, the only ones that were left alive was 285 Japanese officers. And they were systematically questioned. They were taken in one door, questioned, and taken out another door in the back where there was a squad of 5 American people waiting for them. And that was the end of that. But we must not forget Corregidor. It was the Gibraltar of the Pacific, but we must not forget Corregidor.
The plane had been badly shot up, and it was, I think one of the crewmen had died, and one of them was badly injured. And everything was messed up so that they weren't even flying in the right direction. They weren't going back to England. They were going back to Germany, I think. When a German fighter pilot came up beside them, and they were expecting to be shot down, but the German fighter pilot flew along with them for a while, and then he gave the thumbs up. Or no, he gave a salute. That's what he did. Not only did he not shoot them down, but he guided them in the right direction so they could return to England. Anyway, it got around, and as it happened, the German pilot was living in Canada at the time, as I remember, and he heard about it and got in touch with the American pilot, and they got together. And after that, they met regularly until both of them passed away. So I think that's a very beautiful story of what can happen during wartime.
I'm Marlon Templeton. I was a combat medic with the 2nd Division, 38th Infantry during World War II for a very short period of time. I was in the field. I heard somebody yell for a medic. So I went over to see what I could do to help him. Now, I know the life of a medic isn't very exciting. But that wasn't what we were there for. It was for excitement. We had all we wanted. This man that had been hit and was in an old part of an old building. Anyhow, I crawled over the wall. There were 2 men in there. One man didn't need my help anymore, but the other one did. And there was a partition down the middle of the building. I was trying to help my man, and pretty soon I heard somebody in very, very clear English say, "Do you need help?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm a German medic." He said, "I'll be over and help you." He said, "Now I have everything here that I've been given and trained to use to kill you. And you have the same equipment to kill me. I'd like to help you." When he got over there to where I was, he said, I have known nothing but war since I was 16 years old. I have been on the Russian front. I have fought everybody in between. I have been in North Africa. I have been in Italy. And now here I am in northern France. He said, I'm tired of war. He was more like a very fine surgeon than just an old combat medic. He helped me and told me, he said, your man is in good shape. Let's get him out of here. Well, I remember we got my man out of there, over that wall, and started back to a battalion aid station. The last thing I remember was a great big explosion. I don't know whether it was the next day or next week or what, but anyhow, I woke up in a very, very comfortable bed in the 67th General Hospital in Taunton, England. To me, that only proved one thing. There is always somebody to help you. I owe that German medic my life. And the man that we helped, I'm quite sure he made it also. But I thank God for that German medic. Even though he was on the opposing side, he was there to help somebody, some way, sometime. Thank you.
You know, it's a real small world. In Las Cruces, you know how far Las Cruces is from Cleveland, where Steve was from. Anyway, I was at the VFW once. I was there having a beer and going to a VFW meeting. And we started talking about things that occurred, and I told him about one of the sad things in my tour was the fact that our navigator was killed. And this girl who married, I think, Junior Atkins from Cruces, said, "Your navigator was killed?" "Yeah." I said, "Yeah." "What was his name?" I said, "Steve Kramer." She said, "Oh, no." She said, "In high school, I used to have a crush on him." So here in Las Cruces, a girl that knew Steve back in Cleveland many years back heard about it from me. So anyway, small world. Anyway, that's the end.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.